Most trucking companies stay with a payroll provider longer than they should, not because they're happy, but because switching feels scary. It feels risky. It feels like something that could blow up and take drivers' tax filings and your sanity down with it. But here's the truth: switching payroll providers doesn't have to be painful. In this episode, I'll show you the best timing, what to gather before you switch, the red flags to avoid, and what a clean transition should look like. This is Driven for Success, the podcast for small trucking company owners who want to run a smarter, more profitable, and more scalable business without drowning in back office chaos. I'm your host, Mike Ritzema, the founder of Superior Trucking Payroll Service, where we handle payroll, taxes, and per diem for fleets all over the country so you can stay compliant, pay your drivers right, and stay focused on running freight. We're going to start with the question of the week. This week's question comes from a fleet owner who asked, if I switch payroll companies in the middle of the year, do I have to redo all my taxes? And I think that a second question with it is, what happens with the W-2s and things like that? Does each payroll company file? That's my added question to their question. And the answer is no. That should never happen. Your new payroll provider should be able to pick everything up for you, depending on when you switched. But any quarter that the new payroll provider finished, any year the new payroll provider finished, any month they finished, they should be able to file for you. You don't want multiple filings for a tax period for a form. For example, you don't want your drivers getting a W-2 because you use this payroll service for the first half of the year and then another W-2 for the second half of the year from the new payroll service. That's not the way it's supposed to work, and it's just going to cause confusion, and you're going to get a million IRS letters, and will be no fun. That is not why you got into business. Same thing with, say, state withholding or state unemployment or anything like that. You want to file once, and you want to make sure you file the once, and you want to only file once. So you don't want both payroll providers assuming the other one's going to take care of it, and you also don't want them both taking care of it. So when you switch, it kind of leads into what we're going to talk about here too, but I'll just preview it. When you switch, you want to make sure that you're very clear about who's filing what taxes, just to make sure. So when you leave the other payroll company, you might say something like, we're leaving as of this date. We expect you'll file these returns. We expect you'll do this and this. Your new payroll provider, by the way, again, free preview, should absolutely be able to help you with that. So back to it. It kind of leads into what we're going to talk about today. Switching payroll providers and not getting the headaches that go with it. So, why do companies wait so long to switch? Most fleets don't switch payroll when they should. They switch when they're already fed up. It's usually after errors or driver problems, which are really errors, or tax notices, or a lack of service from the payroll service provider. Those are the main reasons why things happen. But usually it's anger that makes you switch, which sounds weird because it should be a non-emotional decision, but it ends up being an emotional decision. We've all had other instances with other providers in our lives. Might be our trash removal service. It might be our TV provider, where we're annoyed, but we just don't switch because we got to be really angry to do it. So you have the things that why people wait. Things like fear of disruption. It's going to be a change, and change can be complicated, and change can be scary. Doesn't have to be, but it can be. So you have to be ready for that. You also have, perhaps, let's say your payroll service isn't providing you with the kind of reporting you want, or they make you jump through a bunch of hoops to send them payroll. You have to send it their way, and there's no negotiating about it. Well, you've kind of worked out a system to do that, and you've made your peace with it. And so while your life could be a lot better, it's more like a paper cut thing. It's, well, we'll get this done. We'll do it their way. Now we're just used to doing it their way, so we figured it out. You think there's going to be a problem with taxes or paychecks? Can't have those paychecks be wrong. Cannot mispay those drivers. They will leave your truck in the middle of Nebraska, which is only a problem if your trucking company doesn't have a terminal in the middle of Nebraska. You can't have that. Sometimes it's a bad experience of the switch. Last time they switched, this has literally happened to us. We were talking to a prospect. They were very unhappy with their national payroll provider, and we talked to them about switching, and they're like, well, that's what I'm concerned about. And we're like, please tell us what your concern is. And she shared that when they switched from one national payroll provider to another national payroll provider, the transition was so horrible. I mean, this was like 2 years before, And she was still having nightmares about it. And I'm like, I actually asked her, I said, so you're rewarding the people who did the bad transition by letting them still get your business? And she's like, yeah. So I'm sorry that happened to her and anybody else that that happens to, because that stinks. But that's not a good reason to stay. That really tells you more about the people you're now working with. Or a lot of times people don't feel, they feel stuck because they don't know how to switch cleanly. And that's, again, that's the burden of your new payroll provider. They should be able to tell you exactly how the switch is going to go and what you're going to do and what they're going to do. But that's all defeatable. All these bullet points can feel like real things. All these things I just talked about, they can all feel real, and they are real, but they're all defeatable, and they're just obstacles. We come across obstacles every single day. So your life can be a lot better if you switch to someone, and this isn't true just for payroll, it's true for everything you do. It could be your CPA, your attorney, or any of your service providers, your permit person, right? Getting to a better one will make your life a lot easier and get rid of some of those recurring headaches. But back to payroll, when is the best time to switch? The very best time to switch payroll providers. When I say switch, I mean when you run the first payroll. The first payroll, the best time to switch is the first of the year. And that's coming up. We are about 7 weeks away. That is the very, very best time because you don't have to bring in year to dates. You don't have to do any of those kinds of things. You're not worried about all the things that go with year to dates, like the former payroll service will print the W-2s if you tell them to, and fill out all the year-end tax forms for you, and then the new payroll service gets to start fresh. That said, the next best time is the first of any quarter, which would be January 1, April 1, July 1, October 1, for a lot of the same reasons. Now, you'll still have year-to-date issues, but all the quarterly filing for your unemployment and things like that get done by the former payroll provider. So it's a good clean switch that way. They've also collected all that unemployment tax from you and they're remitting it. And so you should be even there. Versus if switching in the mid-quarter, which is the next best time would be start of a month. If, say, you were going to switch November 1st, which I know you're going to air this after that. The October money you collected for unemployment needs to be refunded back to the clients because the new payroll service needs to collect it from the client so that they can pay it. So that's, but again, that's still better than, the worst one, which is midweek. You don't want to switch midweek. You don't want to have, okay, I'm going to have ABC payroll pay Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and my XYZ payroll, my new one, pay Thursday and Friday. That is a recipe for disaster. Never, ever do that. Never, ever, ever. So, and again, all your payroll providers are going to be experienced at switching any of these times. It's just a little more complicated when you switch mid-month, for example. We can do it. We've done it for some of our biggest clients. I get it, and we'll do it. We'll figure it out for you. The other thing I'd say about switching payroll providers, it's kind of like the old Chinese proverb. The proverb is the best time to plant a tree to walk in the shade is 30 years ago. The second best time is today. So I wouldn't wait if you're looking to switch. I would do it. But if you want to make it easy, you do it at the end of the quarters. But if you're just fed up, just be done with it. Just switch as soon as you can. So what do you need to know before you make this big switch? Because making the big switch seems like a big commitment. It's kind of like switching banks. You might not like your bank, but you're kind of just you're just used to dealing with them. But to switch banks, you got to switch all your programmed prepayments or things that come out of your account directly and all that kind of stuff, and order new checks. Okay, checks are these things we used to write for the people that are younger than me. But all these things you got to do. So it can seem like a lot, but it doesn't have to be. So, but this is where a clean switch really works. If your new payroll provider is asking you to gather everything, if they're wanting you to do all the lifting, that's a problem. They should walk you through this, but they should be telling you very clearly what things they're going to do and what things you're going to do. And if it seems like something either of you could do, it should be the payroll service doing it. That's a good rule of thumb. And if you take away nothing else from this episode, that's a good thing to take away is there's a lot of things either you could do or they could do. And I'll give you an example of the year-to-date information. The payroll service might want it in a certain format. And if they do, they can set it up that way. If you can get it to them in Excel, they can convert it, right? They know how to manipulate Excel. And if they don't, and you really want them as your payroll service, because again, it's a service. So let them do the service work. They're charging you a setup fee more than likely. Let them do the work. But here's the things you're going to need to work through. You're going to need the prior W-2 totals, prior years. It's always great to get the prior year W-2 totals and the actual forms. So, for example, this is late 2025. We like to get from our new clients the 2024 tax information for a couple of reasons. One of them is it gives us all the account numbers we need to file all their returns. It helps us get in on those things. It also helps us make sure that we've got social security numbers right because we have somewhere else to check it from the actual form. It also, if we have them, once you switch payroll services, the old payroll service may not provide you access to that data anymore. So if we have it, and I'm speaking as a new payroll service, and this isn't just us, this is anybody. If we have it and you need it, we can shoot it over to you. So you'd also need current year-to-date wages, deductions, all that stuff, all the reimbursements, including per diem, all that kind of stuff. You're also going to need, depending on when you switch, if you switch first of a quarter, that should be good enough. A lot of companies prefer it by quarter, and there's good reason for that. But if you're switching mid-quarter, you need the year-to-date by quarter, and then you need the current quarter year-to-date because you're going to have to do some unemployment calculations. You're also going to need, if you switch mid-month, you're going to need the month year-to-date for things like most states monthly with income tax withholding for the state or city. So you're going to need those broken down that way. You're going to need all the demographic information from your drivers and your employees, name, address, tax claiming information. You're going to need direct deposit forms for all of them. Most payroll services are going to be bound by NACHO rules, which is the people, the direct deposit police. And so they're going to want to have proof of those forms and make sure that they're filled out correctly. You're going to need all your unemployment and local withholding and state withholding account numbers and possibly login information so they can log in for you and assign themselves as the agent. Again, you don't want them to say, well, set us up as your agent. Like, you don't mess around in your state withholding account. They should say, hey, look, give us your sign in and we'll do it for you. That's an easier way to do it. It's up to you. No, there's nothing crazy in your state withholding account. It's just going to be returns and payments history. So there's no big deal there. They're going to need your banking information to take the money out of your account, of course, because you got to pay for these drivers. And they're going to need all of the garnishment rule or the garnishment letters that you have active, including child support. I call it garnishment, but it's all the third-party payments. Your rules for how you pay per diem, your rules for if you have a retirement plan, what the match policy is, things like that, and any agency letters you got hanging around there. But if you can provide those things, or what we like to do is if you can give us access to get those things, we'll get them for you. And that's the way it should be because you got a trucking company to run. You don't have time to mess around with trying to remember your state unemployment login and then go log in and then figure out what they're looking for. Let them go look for it. You don't need to do it. You got trucks to run. So with that, let's talk about some red flags you could come in that could happen during this. Number one is we'll get all your year-to-date info later. The only time that's okay, first of the year, there's no year-to-date info, so we're good there. But other than that, it's only if you want to switch and you're trying to do an express switch, we want to get you started Tuesday and it's Friday, that kind of thing. If it's got to be that fast, but even then, we're still going to want the year-to-date information. But you need it to make sure that you're withholding the proper unemployment and tax for federal and state. And if you have very high compensated employees, the Social Security tax. Or if they say to you, just re-enter all of your employees manually, you shouldn't enter anything manually. That's dumb. You're using a payroll service for a reason. So make them do it. If they don't understand trucking pay, that's a red flag. If they're like, what's detention? What's layover? What's lumber? And you're like, lumber's not pay. I keep telling you that. If you've got to teach them about trucking, you're going to have to teach them a lot. You're just trading one set of problems for another. If they don't mention things like the state tax handoff or the 941 handoff and who's going to file what, they should be able to come to you. Your new payroll service should be able to come to you with a plan. And that plan is if we switch on this date, we're going to file these things. We're going to have your old payroll service needs to file these things. and we're going to need to collect these taxes from you from the time that you used your old payroll service, if it's mid-quarter or something like that, or mid-year for whatever other reasons. So this should be clear. It should be very easy to understand. And in fact, they should even help you write the termination letter to your old payroll service and say, hey, thank you for everything. We're going to be done on this date. We expect you to do these things. We expect you to refund us these taxes. Have a good day. It's really all there is to it. If they can't tell you who does onboarding, hey, who's going to be my onboarding person? If they go, oh, we do it all automatically, well, that means they don't do it at all. That means you're doing it. If they say it's all automated, you're doing it. So that's a problem. You should have an onboarding person, and you should get to talk to them. There should be a handoff right after you sign the contract, is the way we do it. But it can, as long as somewhere in there, as we're getting started, they say, hey, look, this is Taylor. She's your onboarding person. She's going to get you all set up and run your first couple payrolls for you to make sure everything's okay before we pass it off to the processing team and an account manager that will take good care of you. Something like that. So those are just big red flags. You just got to watch out for them. Those are things that are, hey, can I back out of this? You should feel really good about how the transition goes, because it's a very uneasy time. And what we try and do is we'll say to people, I got this actually when we bought a car. My wife and I bought a car years ago. The salesman said to us, I want this car buying experience to go so well. We'd already decided to buy the car from him. So we were like, it's kind of like signing the contract, right? Like we're already there. So we were kind of at implementation and the stuff you do to finish out getting your car. And he's like, I want this to go so well that you're going to give me a 10 out of 10 on every question because you're going to get a survey. And so we're the same way. I'll tell people when we start people, hey, I want we call it implementation. I want the implementation to go so well that you're going to write a testimonial for us. And if it doesn't, I want you to call me because I want it to be that good, because it's a very uneasy time and you're very nervous. And I understand that because your drivers have to get paid. So it makes sense to me. Here's what a good switch should feel like. We just talked about the red flags, so I feel like I've been kind of the downer on this. Let's talk about what it should look like. Your data should get imported for you. If you can provide the data in anything that's importable, like, I mean, a PDF isn't ideal, but an Excel sheet with the columns that line up, fantastic. They should do it for you. You're paying them to onboard you. Let them onboard you. You should have live support. You should have somebody you can call anytime you want to call, or email, or however you prefer to contact people. The first payroll should be double checked before you go live. They should be, ideally, what we like to do, depending on the time frame of the client, how quickly they want to go, we'll do their last couple payrolls parallel to what they do, just as practice runs, to make sure that we've got every deduction, make sure our taxes line up so we have the right number of exemptions for the state or whatever. That's the way we like to do it. Now, sometimes we don't have time to do that because they want to move right now because, again, they switched emotionally because they're really mad, which I understand. So they just want to switch, and we'll figure it out. Everybody gets paid. That's the main thing too. Like a good switch, everybody's going to get paid, no problems. Everybody's there. Another one is the tax agencies and all the filings and all the handoff of all that. You shouldn't have anything to do with it. When you talk to your new payroll provider, they should say, we will manage this. We will make sure those get filed, and we will make sure that we'll give you the letter to give to your old payroll service so that we're all on the same page. Because you don't want to be wondering, oh, did they file this or did they file this? And it should be clear as day who's going to do what. And I think this is it's pretty important. You should feel like someone is driving the process on the new payroll service side, not giving you homework. It's not like, I think of too like mortgages, and I'm not trying to dump on the mortgage industry, but I'm an accountant by trade. I know what they need. And I tell them at the beginning, every time I've ever gotten a mortgage, I tell them, give me the list of every document you're going to need. I'm going to bring them all to you. And so I do that, and they tell me they need the W-2s and tax returns and pay stubs and whatever. Okay, no problem. I provide all those. And then like the day before closing, like, oh, I need these 4 things. Like, you didn't know? You didn't have any idea? You already ran my credit score. You know where I'm at. Like, how is this a problem? So yeah, you shouldn't feel like that. You shouldn't be left in limbo wondering what happens next. There should be a lot of communication. Hey, this is going to be the next thing. This is where we are. Part of what we do is we reverse engineer it from your first payroll date. We'll say, okay, your first payroll date is going to be January 2, which will be the first Friday of the year for 2026. Okay, so we need these things we're going to try and get these things done on these dates. We're going to need these things from you on these dates. or access to them, and then we're good. And so then we can check them off as we're going, and we can keep up with you. And if we don't get access for some reason, we'll work with you and say, hey, we needed this on this date. We didn't have it yet. Can you please help us get it? Again, if you give us the keys to the place for your payroll software or your tax, your tax accounts, that really helps too. So switching payroll providers only feels scary when you don't have a plan. With the right timing, the right checklist, and the right partner, it becomes one of the easiest upgrades you can make to your business. If you're thinking about switching and want to see what a clean, low stress transition looks like, reach out to us at Superior Trucking Payroll Service, truckingpayroll.com. We do this all the time. We'll walk you through the process before you ever commit. So next week, we're going to take a look behind the curtain. What happens after you send your payroll information and why most owners never see it? Until then, thanks for listening and keep on trucking. We'll talk